5 past now, so we'll jump straight into it now. As always, any questions that you have, feel free to pop them in the chat function section there. So any questions, yeah, feel free to whack them in the chat or in the Q&A section as well. Happy to answer your questions. As we go through, if I'm able to, then I'll do them then. If not, we do a bit of a Q&A session towards the end. But perfect. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining today. I appreciate we have some people that have joined webinars before and some that I appreciate. HandsHQ, it's probably the first time you've heard of HandsHQ, maybe even the first time that you've heard that a RAMS software exists, so a software to generate site-specific risk assessments and method statements. Just to give you a little background on HandsHQ, so we've been around for about 8 years now. Predominantly we are a RAMS software. That's where our sort of DNA is from. We built and created, so we've got in-house team of developers that created the RAMS product and continuously updating it as well. Over the last year, we have released a new product, which is our training register. We won't be going into that today, but that is a webinar that we are going to be running in 2 weeks' time as well. So I'll give you some more information on that towards the end. But yeah, today we're going to be focusing on how HandsHQ allows businesses to create site-specific risk assessments and method statements in less time. Now, I appreciate that a lot of you, as you mentioned already, are using Word, Excel, templates, pen and paper for creating RAMS documents. However, there are a lot of challenges that come with this that I hear on literally a daily basis from different health and safety managers or different companies that I'm speaking with. I would say the sort of main 4 challenges that come from these are quality of documents, consistency, lack of engagement from the on-site team, and obviously time as well. Sometimes, you know, these documents are of such sort of low quality depending on who's actually creating them. So you can have, you know, a variety of members of the team that are creating these RAMS documents. Some have more experience than others, so are better at creating RAMS than others. So that consistency really fluctuates. As a result, when these get sent off to clients, sometimes they are pushed back and rejected. And then they need to be worked on again. So just taking up too much time. So, you know, they might be rejected 2-3 times sometimes, each time taking an hour or 2 to generate them. Before you know it, one RAMS document is taking you 3 or 4 hours to create before the client gives a thumbs up for you to be able to go on site. So HandsHQ is all about making sure you're creating the highest quality documents the first time around, and really helping you reduce that rejection rate, the time it takes to create these documents, but allowing them to be of the highest quality that you could possibly have. But also, because the process is so easy to use and so straightforward to use, that actually you can start opening the doors for more of the team that maybe didn't have the confidence to create documents before. Now they've got the ability to write those high quality documents, high quality RAMS. So hopefully you can all see my screen moving up and down here. If you can't, do let me know, but it should all be working. It should all be working fine. We shouldn't have any technical problems here. But perfect. So this is HandsHQ. So this is the screen that you'll see when you log in. So HandsHQ is a web-based and a cloud-based platform. So it essentially means that providing you have internet connection, you've got the ability to log on to the system, start writing RAMS, editing RAMS, or download any of your previous documents you've created. So when we log in, this is our first page, which is our projects page. Projects is essentially our terminology for RAMS or documents, however you want to word that, but we call it sort of projects. So as you can see here, we've got all of our different project names, which we can see here. We're also able to see whether they are a live document. So anything green means that that's a live document. Anything gray means that that's a project that's finished. We do also have yellow tabs as well, which means that that's a project for a future start date. So a project that might start 2-3 weeks in advance. You've got the ability to write in your client details, any reference numbers, when that document was last updated as well. We've got other features like our risk register, which if we've got time to, we'll jump on today. But that's just the ability to be able to actually update individual risk assessments. And it's going to flag to say whether a risk assessment that you're using is out of date. We can create internal approval processes as well. You've also got the ability to archive any of your documentation at any point if you need to. There is also the ability to duplicate any RAMS documents. We actually have a lot of businesses that don't like the duplication process. So we've now added in a new feature which allows you to turn it off, which we've got on here. We do also have the ability for larger businesses where you might have multiple divisions, whether that be by task, by region. You've got the ability to split HandsHQ up into different divisions. What that will allow you to do is you can jump through to divisions. Each division can have their own content library, their own sort of workflow, and we can also restrict users to those divisions too, if that's how you want to split up your work. But let's jump straight into creating a new project. So we select new project up on the top right here. The first page that we come to is our project details. Very straightforward at this point. This is literally just adding in our project information, so where it is that we're going to be working. So let's just call this, let's say we're working on a football stadium. So let's call this stadium refurb, for example. We can add any reference numbers in for our job. We can also add our start and end dates. Let's say this job isn't actually starting for 2 weeks' time, but we want to be proactive and create our RAMS document, and it's lasting for a couple of weeks. We can add in our client details. So let's just say that we're going to be working for the FA. Any client reference numbers that we have in here, and also our locations of work as well. Let's just call this Smith Street for now. Very straightforward at this point. It's literally filling in the blanks. So once we've added all of the information in that we need here, we can then move on to our next step. And this is where we come through to what I like to refer to as the secret sauce of HandsHQ. This is your content library. Oh, clicked a button that I shouldn't have then. This is where we come into the risk assessment library. Now, the library that you're seeing here is a standard HandsHQ library, but what we are able to do is create a bespoke library based off your current risk assessment. So if you've already got a risk register or a risk library, we can actually do as part of the onboarding process, a data migration, take your information from your system and put it into ours. So everything will be essentially what you're used to in terms of your tasks or your risk assessments. So we're in the general category at the moment. Really what we're asking for is the user to start considering the hazards on site and build that risk profile and really make it site specific to the job at hand. So we're in the general category. As a example to start with, if we wanted to go for arrival and departure from site as one of our first hazards that we've associated with our project, we can select this and then we can go into edit. And then we'll see all of the risk assessments that are associated to arriving and departing from site. Now, from here, we can actually go ahead and make these site specific. So we can deselect any of the risk assessments that aren't applicable for our job, for our project. But as we go down below, crash before load, yes, this is the potential to happen on our site. So we can leave it selected. Then we can go into edit. And this is where we can actually make it site specific and add some further information. So if we just call this on Smith Street, for example, and then we've got our 5x5 risk matrix, which we can update and change if needed to. And then we have also got our control measures, which we can add some information onto as well. This is really where you're going to see that sort of quality and consistency rise, because regardless of your knowledge or experience of writing RAMS, it might be the first RAMS document that you've ever created. Everyone will be starting from the same place in terms of the content that they're going to be using. And it's that final bit of information being the site-specific details. That's what they're going to be adding. So each time, it's worth noting actually that each time you do make an edit to any of this information, you're only making an edit for that project. So you're not essentially like deleting or overwriting any of the information. When you create a brand new project, it'll reset itself to that standard set list of information. But essentially what it's allowing you to have is that element of control. So this library can be managed by health and safety. It can be updated by the health and safety department, but your project managers, your engineers out on site or whoever it may be, is generating these documents. They've got the confidence and they know that actually all the information that they're using has been updated and created or written by the health and safety team. It just sort of, I guess, eliminates that bottleneck that there may be at the moment where you've got members of the team calling up and saying, I need a RAMS document for working at height, for example. Rather than doing that, they can log into the system and actually see all of the information and data that they have for working at height, and they can actually generate this document for themselves. But as I go down, you can see just how many different sections that we have in here. So if we wanted to go into electrical, for example, and just say that we're installing some new lighting, once again, we can click edit and see all of the associated risk assessments for installing new lighting. So that's the add-in of our tasks, add-in of our risk assessments. We can then go through to our next step of the process, So this is a 4-step process, and this is the 3rd step that we're on now. This is where we come into our sequence of operations. Now, this is essentially how you would like the team to go about completing the job in the safest possible way. So your safe sequence of works, essentially. So we selected electrical, therefore it's pulled through a bunch of different electrical tasks that we could be doing. Once again, as part of the onboarding process for some of our larger packages that we have, we can actually import a lot of your current sequences into the system. If you wanted to use a hybrid of your information and ours, that's possible as well. So we're in the electrical section here. All of these are different jobs that we could be doing, different tasks. So we're going to be installing lighting. So all we need to do is select installing lighting. And then this is the sequence that we have identified the safest possible way for the team out site to be completing the task. As always, with everything within the system, you can make this site specific. So you can jump into any of this content and add any information that you needed to. You can deselect any of the sequence that maybe isn't applicable. You can also move the sequence around if for a certain job you need to. You've also got the ability to add any images to your sequence as well. So if you wanted to make pictorial sequences, which is obviously great if there are any form of language barriers on site, then you're able to do that and add your own images into the documents at this point too. So then if we jump through to our next step, this is where we come on to our final step of the process. This is where we come on to our method statement. Now, as per the sort of previous step, a lot of the information that you see as we go through here has all been pre-populated based on our previous selection. So all of the information in here, we can add new fields as well, but all of the information that you see is all based off those previous selections. So as we scroll down, we can see that we've got our training information all pre-populated for us, tools and equipment. If for whatever reason you decide actually this isn't applicable for our job, get rid of that content and then the title won't show up in the final document either. But you've always got the ability to jump into here and do any free text that you might need to. You can also add any images too for any of the method statement sections. Very straightforward to do so. If you've got the image saved on your computer, then all you need to do is drag and drop. I believe you might actually be able to take from your phone as well and upload it straight into the system. But let's do an example here. Let's just add a screenshot of map to the closest hospital, which we can see here. We can change the size of this as well, or add a caption in if we need to as well. So as we jump back of here, we come to our hazardous substances. We do have a COSHH library, so you can add COSHH assessments to the document, which I'll show you in a moment as well. And then we've got our PPE requirements too. So once we've selected all the information that we need, we can move on to our next step. And then, believe it or not, that is us done. So we've now we've now generated our risk assessment, sequence operation, and our method statement. One thing I like to say about our documents is they're always live documents. You can always jump back into that risk assessment at any point, and that gives you the ability to actually update it. So if there was a change on site, whether it be the environment's changed or there's a new task that the client has asked you to do, you can jump back into this risk assessment and then go ahead and say, okay, I need to now add working in dusty environments, for example. We can add this risk assessment. We can then go to save and exit. We then are asked for our reason for editing. So we could just say added risk assessment. We can then move back to our next step. And then when we go into the activity tab, what this is actually going to do, it's going to give us a full audit trail, full activity log of how that document has changed over time. So you can see who created it, when they created it, and why they created it, but then also the reasons for why the project has been changed, updated over time. You do also have the ability to download any previous versions. So if you wanted if you were having an audit, for example, and you wanted to show proof of how that document's changed, you can download like previous versions of that document, so previous versions. Great. So now we've got our risk assessment. Before we can send this off for signature or approval, we need to add our COSHH assessment. Now, I appreciate that not all of you might have to create COSHH, but those that do, the way that this process works is very straightforward. So we've got a COSHH library sort of in the background. I think there's about 10,500 substances in the library at the moment. It's very straightforward. All you need to do is search for the substance that you're going to be using. Mastic, for example, find the correct mastic that you're going to be using, and then we can go to edit. What this is going to do is it's going to once again have a few empty boxes, information that we need to fill in. So your quantity kept on site, you've got your drop down for your length of exposure, where it's going to be used, and then it's going to pre-populate for us all of your first aid and PPE requirements as well. So they're all pulled through to the system from the MSDS sheet or from the SDS sheet, which we can then update, add any further substances that we need to. If not, we can just move back to our project, and then that COSHH assessment has now been bolted onto the bottom of our document. So we wanted to make that process as easy as possible to be able to get the information that you need for your project. One thing that we realized is that even less people knew how to create a COSHH assessment than they did a risk assessment. So we just had to make that process as straightforward and easy as possible. A lot of the time, people just bolt on the SDS sheet onto the back of a RAMS and think that's enough. But this is just a very sort of easy way to actually make that specific to your site. So I'm just going to jump onto a few more features now. Any questions that anyone has, feel free to throw those in now. I'll see if I can answer those shortly. If not, we'll ask them towards the end, but feel free to pop your questions in from the Q&A section above. Perfect. So the next steps from here is obviously going to get this approved internally. Now, you might not need an approval process, but what we see a lot of the time is when health and safety teams want to be able to get more of their site-based teams involved with the process, there might be a few sort of common offenders that actually aren't the best at writing RAMS. So as a final line of control, final line to essentially make sure that quality is there, they create this approval process. So what we have here is you can select who the approver is. So let's say I am the health and safety manager. I'm a new engineer. Create the RAMS and send it to the health and safety manager for that internal approval. The health and safety manager would then receive an email with a link. They can go through, preview that document, look through the document, and then they can just come back and say, yes, best RAMS ever, hopefully, and then you can approve that document. So now your team know that this has had the sort of seal of approval internally, and now it's ready to be sent off to your client or used out on site. So the next step would obviously be to get signatures from your personnel that are going to site. So those that are working, I'll show you in a moment. I appreciate we've skipped a step, which is actually sending these out to the client, but I'll show you how that looks in a moment. But now we want to add our personnel. So these are the people that are actually going to be working out on site. So all we need to do is add personnel. You have a library in the background of all of those names that you've added to projects before in the past. So once they're in the system, you can search for them really quite easily. As I mentioned, we do have a training register product. So this is actually going to pull through whether they've got the correct training to actually do that job or not. So there's a nice integration there. Essentially, this is pulling in the what you might have as an Excel training matrix at the moment. But at the moment, we can see that the signature has not been sent to Alan. Alan's the electrical engineer for our job. So what we can do is we can ask for signatures. This is then going to send an email out to Alan. Alan will be able to open this email up on his phone, read through the RAMS document, and then it will ask him to rotate his phone, and he can digitally sign off on his phone at this point. Alternatively, what can happen is you could do your site induction for your RAMS and essentially, talk everyone through the RAMS out on site, and then individually each person could come up to the computer, find their name, and then actually select sign now. What that's going to do first is it's going to show you the actual document itself. So all of the information that we've input throughout that process of generating a RAMS document is now being all pulled together. Obviously, you'd have your own information like your logos and business information, revision number updates itself as well. So not something that you have to sort of manually track. So we start off with our method statement. All of our method statement information has been in here, and it's all formatted for us as well. So one thing that I like to say to our clients is you never have to worry about formatting a document ever again. You can focus on the important part, which is obviously the content, and the system will do the heavy lifting in terms of the formatting for you. One thing that we found out from our research is that probably about over 50% of the time, generating a RAMS document using Word, Excel is actually just taken up through formatting documents. So as we come off the back of the method statement, we come to our risk assessment. So our 5x5 grid is explained for us here. And then we've got our risk assessments laid out really quite nicely, very easy to sort of read. They flow really quite nicely as well. So hopefully for those that have never seen a risk assessment or a method statement before, you can really pick this document up and really understand exactly what's going on here. I've seen so many documents that have just got thousands of words thrown onto one page that it's quite intimidating, especially if it's not something that you're used to reading. So as we shoot off the bottom of our risk assessment, we come onto our signatures page. In a moment, I'm going to sign this document and my digital signature will be imprinted on this page. And then below, we've got our COSHH assessment that we've created as well, which will bolt onto the back of our document. You can decide whether you want the SDS sheet on there or not. Some of our clients see it as padding, like unnecessary padding to a document. Others see it as a requirement because their clients are asking for it. So it's completely up to you with whether you want it. It's literally a tick of a button to say whether it's to be there or not. So once Alan, in this example, has read through the document, happy with the risks, happy to get to work, you can then click accept. What this is then going to do is it's then going to take an image of the person that's signing that document as well. So hopefully their picture is going to be a little bit nicer than mine. But then they can just digitally sign as well. Essentially, this is you doing your due diligence, making sure you're getting the right people signing on the right documents, rather than, and I know we all know it happens on construction sites where you have one person sign off everyone else. This really makes sure that you've got that proof. So if there was ever a near miss incident on site and there's an investigation, you can always jump back to this risk assessment and be able to find the signature, date and time that it was signed as well. So really mitigating that risk down as much as possible. So from here, we can obviously download it. If you wanted your own PDF version on your server, then you can do. You can download that as a PDF and print it off. You've also now got the ability to email this out. So it'll actually distribute these documents out to your clients. Now, the way that this would work is literally just it'd be your email address. You decide who you want it to send to. Decide whether you want the RAMS and also a training report. So a training report, as I mentioned, is part of our training register for the webinar that we've got in a few weeks. But training report is essentially all of that information that's been collated for that individual that's going to that site. You can decide whether you want to send one of these or not. Add your body of email, and then you can then send this off to your clients. The way that this would look, your clients would then receive an email that would look like so. As a Blue Peter moment, this is one I made earlier. So sent a painting and decorating RAMS to our client. They've received this with your email, then they can download documents. What that's going to then look like is going to take them through to this page, and they've got the ability to download the RAMS, but also the training report as well. So they've got everything that they need there. Within the system, it sort of works in the same way that WhatsApp does as well. So it's going to give us some ticks to say whether they've received and opened that document too. So you've got your read receipts there too. So that's a very quick sort of run through of the RAMS product. Obviously, as you can see here, all of the changes that we've made and updates to that document, we've got that full activity log as well. So we can see who's updated and who's changed the document as and when we need to. So we've got that full audit trail, which obviously is great for ISOs in terms of sort of best practice and document management as well. We do have some other features, probably don't have enough time to go into it today, so I'll probably do a separate webinar on this, or if anyone would like to see it, then please do let me know. But we've got our risk register as well. Our risk register is essentially a place where we tend to see health and safety teams or health and safety directors live in most of the time. And this will allow you to actually update individual risk assessments. So if we just go back into our project page here, we can see that actually for our Reading Station project that we've run, we've got an out-of-date risk assessment. This is essentially just notifying us that someone within the risk register has updated an individual risk assessment, and therefore for our live project, which we have here, an individual risk assessment is out of date. So it's just prompting us to go in there and update it. It could be that there was a near miss for slip, trips and falls at another site, and therefore we want to update all of our risk assessments to our brand new control measures, which is notifying us to do here. And then, as I mentioned as well, we do have the training register, which I'll be doing another webinar on in a few weeks. So we'll send across a recording of this, but also a link for you to be able to join the training register in a few weeks as well. But that's pretty much a quick roundup of the RAMS side of the system. Does anyone have any questions at all? I saw a question come through from Samson. Please, can I get a copy of the template? I will. There is actually a template you're able to download on our website, or if you're looking for an example document of what the HandsHQ is able to create, then you can also download an example document, which you'll be able to find on our website as well. I mean, if there's anyone that would like a call today, just to sort of discuss this a little bit further, or if you'd like to book in a follow-up meeting or understand about pricing, then let me know in the chat now. Just say yes, please, and I can pop you a call today to talk about it in a little bit more detail. Great, perfect. I will be. A few people have said yes, so I'll be giving you a call shortly. Any other questions in the time being at all? Please do let me know. Otherwise, it's bang on past. It doesn't look like we've got any questions for the moment. But yeah, we'll be popping around a recording of the webinar. So feel free to share that with the rest of your team. And any questions that you do have, feel free to get in touch with me. My email is mason@handshq.com. So pretty straightforward. And yeah, happy to answer any of your questions, but really appreciate everyone's time today. And yeah, as I mentioned, we'll be running the training register webinar in a few weeks as well. So if you'd like to sign up to that, then please do. We'll be sending around the link soon. If you'd like to get a head start and you're eager to see it, then let me know, and we can always book a meeting in this week to look at the training register side of the system as well. But that is everything from me. Thanks very much for joining. Nigel, thanks very much. Thekla, I'll be giving you a call later. So John, thanks very much. Thanks everyone for joining.